Is this thing working? What is happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic Monday evening. Coming at you from the road, from my humble abode here in my hotel room. I figured I would touch base with you guys. I've had a few of y'all asking me some questions about the track rental. How did Revlon do? How'd the day go? DA, stuff like that. So wanted to talk a little bit about that, kind of bring you guys up to speed. Sorry, this lighting is god awful. Not that it's normally not great anyway, but anyway, you get the idea. So the Moparmageddon is basically over, and although we had a couple of casualties, it could have definitely gone worse. Dr. Diff's in the house. What up, man? Thank you for the kind words on that track rental. I know you're having a good time out there. So Doc Diff just went out there and hurt some folks, at least completely discombobulated some folks with how well that truck was running. LSX Jimmy's in the house saying, what up, man? White Knuckles in, Jackie Chan's checking in. I like it. So here's the thing, guys. You know, we weren't really looking for anything major to come out of Revlon on the track rental. The reality is that, you know, we kind of sort of figured out that she was kind of about at the limits of what that car was really going to be capable of doing. I was hoping to get a teen out of it, a 10 teen. But yours truly kind of screwed the pooch a little bit on one key thing. So, so getting into it, the DA, starting the day, I think the DA was something like minus 1,300 or minus 1,000. I'm really not sure. It was foggy as hell, though, and although the track prep was unbelievable, and by the way, shout out to the crew at Houston Raceway Park, was on top of track prep all day long. That track was sticky. People were hooking like you wouldn't believe, which is probably part of the reason why a couple of cars got injured, but nothing blew up. So at least we had that going for us. But that being said, we can't fault the track. The conditions were what they were. They were kind of weird. Low DA, but also along with the low temperature, I should kind of point out here, we had low barometric pressure. So it was just kind of a funky day. Anyway, long story short, 1024 with a 2 was the best time of the day, with a 1024 with a 6 being run not once, but twice. The car basically ran 1020s all day right after I had to add some fuel to it. So y'all know how much I harp on y'all about don't run your car less than a quarter of a tank. And I didn't run my car less than a quarter of a tank. I ran it just a tick over a quarter of a tank. Well, made the first pass and the car kind of fell over a little bit on the 1-2 shift and then took off like normal. Thought it was kind of weird, but it felt like it had spun a little bit. I was data logging the pass, but didn't really think much of it. Looked through the data, everything pretty much looked fine. Let the car sit, walked around for a little bit, talked to some guys, and then came back, made another pass. The car did the same thing again, and the car was leaving hard. We're talking 148 60 foots. One of them was a 148 with a 3, and that's the run that I was data logging where I went back and had to figure out what was going on with the car. And sure enough, it went into fuel starvation. So even though my fuel gauge was showing just a tick over a quarter of a tank, the data log where I do actually log the actual amount of fuel in the car was showing just under a quarter of a tank. That's right. The car 60-footed so hard that it fuel starved itself with a quarter tank of fuel in it. Not too shabby. So basically, any shot that I had of a 10-teen, by the way, that was on 93 octane. I hadn't even added any fuel to it. And what little fuel I added to it was a mix, about 30% 100 octane with regular 93 octane. I was trying to see if the car would run any different on 93 versus 100. It really didn't. So anyway, getting back to it, the car did fantastic. Couldn't have asked for anything better, but watch your fuel levels, guys. You got to remember, just run them at about half a tank and you'll be safe. But again, 1020s all day long once that situation got sorted out. And mile an hour was showing basically 132 and change. So anywhere between 132.2 to 132.6 or 7 or whatever. I think that was the highest mile an hour that it ran. So at least we had that to play with. But it looks like everybody had a great time. I didn't really get any video of the event. I was too busy going out there having fun. Didn't want to turn it into a big deal like that, but I got some video I'll try to post up. There was an issue with the time slips where you had to go back to the Christmas tree to get the slips. Kind of broke up some video. I had some technical difficulties, which seems to basically be par for the course, plus a little bit of user error on my part. So yeah, there's that. But overall, had a ball. Looks like everybody else had a blast too. So you check in, see what everybody's up to real quick before I get any deeper into that. Jared's in saying that was an awesome time. I like it. Jared's got the what up, bro? Got the arm flex. I like it. LSX Jimmy was hanging out with Dr. Diff. I like it. 11:15 at 123 out of that truck. That is awesome, brother. Ethan saying, hey, Brian, nice to catch the show. Any hope for Dodge chasing or changing up the Challenger chassis and go with something lighter in the next few years? No, not really. They're looking to do some revisions to the LX platform, I think in 2020. I don't know. The last, man, don't get me to line, okay? But the last thing I saw was 2022, and I don't even think that's going to happen. Chances are they probably already re-upped for another 5 years with that platform. So that's what I heard, and we'll see if it ever really gets there. Ruben Garcia's checking in. Let's give a hand to Ron Silva, 955 at 140 stock demon record. That's right. Got the arm flex and the thumbs up. Yeah, but here's the other thing. Ray ran a string of 980s on stock. I think it was running, well, I know he was running stock pretty much everything. I know he ran a 980 on the stock radials. Ron's car went 955. I did get that run on video, but it's weird because it was freezing when I made that video, and I'm like trying to get it in there. Anyway, that wasn't a good look. Anyway, yeah, he did for sure go 955. So Ray's car did go real well, I guess by that standard, 980s, and his newer Demon's actually I think faster than his old one. Let's see. LSX saying our Hellcat hit fuel cut on my best launch of the day on a 146 60 foot. Oh, that sucks. Had a quarter of a tank in it too. Yep. So here's the thing. So give you guys an idea of what I was looking at when I was looking at the data. I still can't believe this is so stupid. So I'm looking at injector. I wasn't even looking at injector duty cycle because it's just, you see this stuff enough and it's not something that really crosses your mind. But after the second or third time the car did this, it kind of dawned on me that something might not be right. And it didn't really feel like a fuel yip, but I don't know. I went to the data and started looking for anything. And there it was, clear as day. On the throttle, I was looking to see if it was chopping the throttle for any real reason. So I'm going through the data log, and the throttle source is reading pedal. This is just me kind of simulating the curve here. But pedal, 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 pedal. And then you see injector duty cycle spike. It goes from like 86% to 127%. Goes literally off the chart. Comes back down to 86%. And the pedal source goes injector duty cycle. Or I'm sorry, injector pulse width is what freaked it out, which is part of injector duty cycle. Anyway, I went, you've got to be kidding me. And that's when I flung I just took my deal and ran it all the way down to the bottom of the parameter list where I've got my fuel at 0.22, not 0.25 as far as, percentage of a tank of fuel. Like, you got to be kidding me. I literally just fuel yipped on what I thought was a quarter tank of gas. So good to know she can 60 foot hard enough to evacuate the well for the pump. That's when you got a good one. Let's see. Jarrett's saying that he knows for a fact his does the same thing. So yeah, definitely not something that you want to do, because when you're under that much load and it goes lean, yeah, that's not good at all. Let's see. Dr. Div saying, I want to send you the video of the 11.2. Email it to me. G-Rockins in saying, long time no see. Good seeing you, bro. The trial saying, I have an 06 Charger RT. My question is about the heads. These are the pre-Eagle motor heads. Can there be gains by having these heads work, ported valve job, etc.? Yeah, there are gains you can get from it. And I would highly suggest, if you're going to be doing any kind of performance work to it, to get the valve seats replaced. I had a bad habit of dropping valve seats back in the day. If you overheated them, in some cases, if you went a little bit too crazy with mods, especially if you threw nitrous at it. He's asking her, should I switch to Eagle? If you're going to go that far into it, man, don't worry. Don't buy. Yeah, they're going to flow better. But here's the thing. Hold on. Yeah. So if the question is, should you switch to those heads? It depends on what you're doing with the car. See, this is one of the questions I get a lot: is what's better? What's the best? Should I do this or should I do that? Without any backstory. Look, man, if you just want to pick up some power, have them ported. Don't buy a new set of heads unless you're just dying to do a head swap. In my opinion, you don't need the flow. None of these engines, especially a 5.7, doesn't need the head flow of any of the later heads. The head flow is obnoxious. The intake won't flow what the heads can flow. So you're better off sticking with a good set of ported heads that you have. Go with a cam that works with those heads and have a fun car than trying to make a mismatched combination work, which, if you're asking me, oddly enough, without a cam, the newer 5.7s, I mean, they run good, but if you throw a cam in them, you got to be real careful because they're real sensitive to valve timing events. Just saying. The older ones you can have a little bit more fun with, in my opinion. LSX Jimmy saying, I wish I had brought the vet out if the clutch had held up to a launch. I think the car has a 1090 in it. I would say it's probably got something real close to it. If nothing else, it will mile an hour its ass off. Dollar Power saying, it's Mr. Mason time. What's up, man? The trial saying, going to go heads, cam intake. Yeah, just get the heads ported. Go with your cam. Do whatever intake you want to do with the car. You're going to have a fun car either way. Don't overthink it, man. When it comes to these Hemis, here's the problem. You don't have the resources for the modern Hemis that you have with the LSX crowd. Speaking of LSX, Jimmy, right? The reason for that is that the Hemi heads, the modern Hemi heads, the newest, latest version, Apache version, if you want to call it that, of the Gen 3 Hemi head, flows, in my opinion, a little bit too much. They just completely outpace the intake manifold. The intake manifold is doing all it can to generate velocity, and because of that, you run into a bit of a mismatch with the combination. So the older cars, though, they're a little bit more fun. The heads don't flow as much, but you can put a cam in there with a little bit tighter LSA, and you don't lose the drivability that you would with the newer heads. They just really get doggy. And you don't really ever feel them pick up as much as you do with the older cars. That's just my opinion. That's what I've noticed. And, some may argue with that, but I don't know, man. When you're around these things as much as I've been around, I mean, there's certain combinations that kind of have a bit of an endearing quality. And 5.7s with big cams, unless you're spraying them, don't really do much for me. Let's see. Or boosting the hell out of them. Jared's asking, unless you got my cam, apparently it's a good one. It wants more and more timing. So Jared's in here. He's got a cam that's got some silly specifications. But on the spray, it will be happy. That cam is dying to find some cylinder pressure. That's all you need, baby. That'll get it right where she needs to be. Went 12s though. That's awesome. Charles saying, thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you for hanging out with us. Appreciate the kind words. Xcash saying, think about picking up a C6 Corvette. Been seeing some for pretty cheap lately, 14 and 19 grand. You can build whatever you want out of a C6 Vet. Those things are a ball. So yeah, manual, automatic, it don't matter, man. You'll be in good shape. Dollar Power saying, best mods for my 13 5.7 truck engine I picked up. Just picking up ideas. I'm old school, dropped in a pre-96 Dakota. So, I mean, best mods, if you're going to go NA, man, look, just stick with the stock intake. You can go 6.1 intake if you like. If you're more old school, it might be a better bet for you. Cam, long tubes, and you'll be in good shape. Again, don't try to overthink it. The truck intake's actually pretty good from the factory. It'll work fine with a cam. It works great with long tubes as well. But if you're trying to do an old school build, you're probably going to be locking out that feature anyway. If you're going to do like a standalone computer system, or if you're going to do a full harness swap or something like that, it just depends on really what you're going for. So, but if it were mine, I don't know, I'd dial back the complexity a little bit and just build something more fun than fast. Luke Rich saying, I'm only 18 years old and I would have a better chance of buying a Dodge Demon than I will the new Dodge Drag Pack. Well, yeah, you would, because there's a whole lot more Demons than there are Drag Packs. White Knuckle RT saying, nitrous that 5.7 and you will be okay. That is correct. Let's see, Xcash. Oh, LSX is saying Xcash, they are by far the best bang for the buck on the market right now. That is correct. Let's see. Luke, I don't know what that means. You have to be more specific, unless I missed something. Doctor is saying, my Enforcer cam is putting in work. I can taste the tins. Need to get my boost hooked up. Yes, you do. Because if you remember, your Enforcer cam is needing more boost than you're feeding it, bro. So yeah, when I put that cam together, actually I had 1060s in mind for your truck. All right. So, but getting back to it, some of the questions that I've been getting lately, talking about different combinations for the Hemi, the Gen 3 Hemi, for the older Gen 3 Hemis. What do I like for this? What do I like for the trucks or the cars? Or what can I do for, just to get more power in general? And one of the other questions was, why don't I do any more videos on those cars? For a few reasons. One, to be honest with you, didn't really see that many coming through the shop. Not too many guys were modifying them to begin with. Part of that might have to do a little bit with the valve guide issue that some of those cars had, but for the most part, we just didn't really see them. It was more 6.1 cars than anything else. Really, not that many 5.7s, unless they were, had like an E4 supercharger or like a Whipple or something like that. But the same rules really do apply. In fact, the older, the older Eagle 5.7s are really kind of fun engines to play with. I mean, if I were doing a swap, say if I had an old Dart or something like that, and I just needed to have a modern style power plant, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad way to go. If you're doing a full harness swap, what's the difference? Get a manual car, drag everything out of it, throw it in there and have a ball. But I wouldn't do a lot with it. You got to remember, those things were pretty power dense for their time. It's just the weight that kind of kills them. Plus, there's no, what is up with the lighting on this thing? Plus, there's no real provision for, putting a blower on it, putting nitrous on it, stuff like that. They just, unless you pull the thing apart, you're potentially run into some problems with those valve seats. So anyway, I guess long story short, I don't do a lot of videos. I don't really talk a lot about them because we just didn't do a lot of them. Nobody was paying the money to have them modified. And that should tell you something right there. I mean, everybody that was thinking about modifying one of those cars was getting rid of it and buying something LS powered, because there are parts that work on an LS. And still to this day, nobody's making a proper intake manifold for the Hemis at all. Nobody's making a polymer intake. Not only proper, but polymer intake that is a proper fit for runner length and costing and things like that. Just nobody's touching it. I think MSD at one point, I think, was looking into it, or was it Fast? Either way, one of the two was looking into it, but the reality is that it never did take off, at least not to my knowledge. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I never heard of it ever hitting the market, and that's a bit of a problem. So anyway, back to it, you ran into a situation where the LS had been out for a long time. Guys could buy Camaros or a Vet or hell, anything that was LS powered, get out there and have a ball and do it on the cheap. That's the main reason why. So anyway, getting back to it, let's see. Catalyst 99, is there any advantage to all-wheel drive for performance, traction? But you do pay the price in terms of weight and complexity, and in some cases, durability. Dr. Div saying Jared beat Jesse NA and Jesse was on 150 shot. That is correct. Luke is asking, which engines are better, pushrod, dual overhead cam, or a variable valve timing? Well, that's kind of a loaded question. Let's see, which are better, pushrod. You can have a variable valve timing pushrod. You can have a single variable cam timing dual overhead cam. You can have a non-VVT dual overhead cam. Your best bet is a dual overhead cam in whatever guise you can find it. That's the best bet you can find. Ask anybody with a Coyote or any of the older four-cylinder, older hot hatch type cars or motorcycles. That'll tell you all you need to know about efficiency and power production per liter. Dual overhead cam for the win. LSX is saying, LS is king. I gained 62 wheel horsepower from a baby 230, 234 cam. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing. You look at what's out there for the LS and it just dominates the field. And a lot of people, okay, here's a question that comes up a lot. And I think this is worth talking about. Why is the LS considered to be far and away better than the Hemi? From a power production standpoint, especially if you're going stock for stock, there's really no LS that competes with a Hemi. I mean, there's no displacement for displacement. You can say the 6.2s, but it's really not even a fair battle. I mean, the 6.4s are just making more power than the 6.2s. Contribute that to whatever you like. But here's the thing. The biggest reason in the world, if the argument ever comes your way, LS or Hemi, why is the LS better? It's because you can swap cams in an LS without removing the freaking cylinder heads. Look, the Hemis are a pain in the ass to do modifications on. I'm sorry, but anytime you've got to remove a set of cylinder heads, that's going to be a bit of a problem for most guys. It's enough, to be honest with you, it's enough to double or even triple the cost of a cam swap, and it creates a whole host of other potential problems along the way. It's just simply not worth it. So a lot of guys just simply don't modify those cars. Now, sure, you can take them to a shop and a shop will, do whatever they need to do to do the cam swap. But again, like I said, there's cost involved, number one. And number two, this is really the more important thing. If you're an at-home mechanic, enthusiast, hobbyist, what have you, it removes you from the conversation realistically. I mean, everything that you've been taught as a kid, especially if you're a Gen Xer born in the 70s or 80s, you've been working on small block Chevys your whole life. LS falls right in line with these vehicles. Even LA platform Mopars do. You don't remove the cylinder heads to remove the lifters or to do anything. You just you do what you got to do to get the cam out. You put it back in, you fire it up, or you break in the camshaft. It's flat tap it. You can't do that with the modern Hemi, and that's one of the biggest reasons why the aftermarket just said, we're not going to have anything to do with this, because why are we going to make an intake for a car, for an engine platform where nobody's swapping out camshafts? We've already proven the fact that swapping an intake out on the car doesn't gain anything at the dragster. In fact, it loses. And the hobbyist isn't going to do a cam swap in his garage with his friends or his family because it's too much of a pain in the ass. It's too expensive on both fronts. Not going to mess with it. Cheers, LS. You win. And it sucks because the Hemi heads are amazing. They flow unbelievably strong numbers. And for those that have actually tried to go out and make some power, and we've had a little success in that, but because the aftermarket has perfected the art of making power with an LS, plus the LS2 intake is amazing. You can get a reman Dorman that'll make 500 plus horsepower with an LS. So cheers on that too. It's just a better design all the way around from intake to serviceability. Because of the pain in the ass on the serviceability front, that's why. Jared Armstrong is asking, what's out there to help that 6-speed out? Torque converter. And a valve body, probably. Greg's asking, has it been proven on the dyno that the new twin scoop hood makes 10 more horsepower? No. The Hellcats and Cold Air real well. Thought 707 versus 717. Man, look, I'll put it to you like this. I haven't seen any of the newer Hellcats with a twin snorkel hood go 1020s on a drag pack with a rear seat delete. So, I mean, does that answer the question for you? At least nobody's playing around with it that much. There's maybe something to it, but it's more of a novelty than anything else. I mean, sometimes I really do wonder, how did they even test that? Because it's not like, so you have to understand how the engine is actually tested. They're tested on an engine stand, but with full exhaust from manifolds all the way through the tailpipes, with the water pump, basically the whole front engine accessory drive running. And I believe now even the alternators even run. So it's a true SAE number. I don't know how you, with that intake system, where the extra 10 horsepower is coming from. Is it because it's an open element filter that's in the dyno cell when they run the thing, and then it goes in the, that's the thing. I mean, it's hard to say. Here's one thing I can tell you. If there is 10 horsepower, okay, so out of 10 cars, there's an average of some small net gain, but believe me when I tell you, in practice, on the street, man, you're just not really going to see that much of a gain. It's, like I say, it's a novelty, it's a cool gimmick, but that's about as far as I would give it. Catalyst 99 is saying, I think the LS can be offered as an aluminum block. That's 100% accurate. You better believe it can be offered with an aluminum block. But most of the hot rodders are pulling 5.3s out of Yukons or pickups or vans, things like that. So the aluminum block portion of it just kind of gets a little bit lost in the wash. But yeah, you absolutely can get an LS3, LS2, LS1 with an aluminum block, and that's kind of a huge deal because that's about 85 to 90 pounds lighter than the iron block. But some will argue strength and all of that. Look, I get it. Either way, it doesn't matter. If you're building a hot rod, don't sweat the weight. Just make the thing make noise and make the power you're looking for. If weight's the problem, make it make more power. Jared saying, ask Dr. Diff, he can swap it without pulling the heads. Yeah, but you still need to swap the lifters if you're doing Hellcat lifters. Jared saying, well, the 5.7, yeah, for sure it is. Yep. Catalyst 99, is there a way to increase torque without boost application? Yep. Put a tune on it. Throw some more timing at it down low. Torque is just the twisting action. So realistically, if you want to make more power, long tube headers, believe it or not, a lot of people argue against them, but where long tubes work with these cars is they work with partial throttle response and partial throttle torque. So it's a real expensive way to pick up a small amount of power, but at least there's that. Z-Dunk's in the house. What up, Z? Saying, hey, B, sorry I couldn't make it yesterday's event. Wife is wondering where you're at. I am in Dallas. I'm having meetings today and tomorrow. So I am in the Big D. Michael Mark saying, Jared Armstrong, I've seen Hemi cam swaps without pulling the heads too. It's risky, but it can be done. Only if you're not swapping out the lifters. Steven's saying, working on my car right now. I like it. Let's see. Dr. Dip's asking, I wonder who has the stock displacement 8-speed crew cab record. If it's not me, I'd want it to be me. You're a little bit off pace. You need to be in the 10s, but you have all the parts you need to get there. Traction is going to start to become a bit of an issue once you start getting about another 2 to 3 tenths quicker. But you may be able to sneak by because you are a turbo application. Just keep launching at about 2 PSI, maybe 3 PSI, and let it ramp in a little bit. But you're going to need to get that boost up, brother. I want to say it's like 10.8s or something like that is the actual record. I think you've got 6s in it. Luke's saying, I've been very skeptical of cold air intakes, but would a cold air intake help my engine run and breathe better? 4.8 LS with Flowmasters, no cats. Yeah, it depends. I mean, look, if you're just building a hot rod, do it just for the noise factor. But man, I wouldn't go out of my way. The thing is, though, is that LSs don't seem to be. It doesn't really matter with an LS or any engine for that matter. Cold air intake is more of a misnomer than anything else when it comes to this hobby. A true cold air intake would involve, proper sealed ducting and everything else. And I mean, unless you're talking about that, then it's just an open element filter intake tract. I mean, that's really all it is. So again, it's a misnomer. Don't let it throw you off. It's just a matter of marketing that's going to get you kind of screwed around. If you're not shooting for ETs or anything like that, it doesn't really matter what you throw at the car. It's under hood temperature. Everybody says, "Oh, it's hot. It's gonna heat soak." Yeah, it does heat soak, but realistically, typically, it'll cool off pretty quick. All things considered, hopefully, you don't have it mounted like right on your radiator. It should be good. Done. Got the devil horns. I like it. Riff saying, "What up, B? What up, Riff?" LSX Jimmy saying, a lot of these expensive aftermarket intakes will cost you power, not make more. Look, man, when it comes to the LS stuff, for stock displacement, it is real hard to beat an LS3 intake. I mean, practically impossible. In fact, if I were building one, it'd be either an LS3 intake, or if I were putting it in a truck, I'd just go TBSS and, call it good. I wouldn't even bother with an aftermarket because, the setup that I would run just really wouldn't require it. I do TBSS intake, 92 millimeter throttle body. Just pick a cam. There's about a zillion of them. Heads and long tubes. I mean, that's it. If you want to hit it with some nitrous, hit it with some nitrous. Hit it with some boost, hit it with some boost. If the cam has 200 and like high mid 200 duration on the intake, low mid 230 duration on the exhaust, intake center line of something like 109. It didn't, just throw a dart, doesn't matter. That's the beauty of the LS. It just doesn't matter. They don't care. 109 intake center line, 113 degree lobe separation angle, 114 degree lobe separation angle if you want to stretch the power just a little bit, but the intake will float just fine. I'd say 113, 113 and a half. There is your garden variety 550 horse engine. I mean, that's just the way that it works, and it will do it indefinitely. Like forever and ever, it'll make that kind of power. So that's the beauty of the LS. That's just what it does. The problem is Dodge doesn't really have an equivalent, except for one, the 6.1. I'll tell you what, if I could ever bottle the feeling of driving that 62 D100 with the 6.1 and the NAG 1 with the 390 gears, I mean, it would be a mirror. The truck was so much fun to drive, and it was stock. In fact, I still have the tune in my computer. And keep in mind, this is an engine, it's 6.1. They don't make a whole lot of power. It's like 350, 365 horsepower to the rear wheels. But they take to cams really well. And so you can do kind of an LS-esque grind, put an LS-ish grind together, throw it at the thing, and it'll pick up 40-odd horsepower. It won't pick up LS-style horsepower. The intake really doesn't allow for it. But it will pick up a nice chunk of mid-range. It'll sound amazing, but it will light the tires up at will. And it'll still be, a 500 and a quarter, 500-ish at the flywheel engine. So you can definitely do it. Hang on a second. Riff, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Saying it was somebody should have paid for some better tuning instead of an intake. Yeah. No, that's really all you got to do is just mind your, and that's the other thing too. Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate the contribution to the cause. Very much. Yeah, but no, man, it has more to do with, just checking your data logs and going over that and just making the adjustments that make sense. A lot of guys just, it's throw more timing at it, or, lean it up or whatever. It just doesn't work with a Hemi. This is turning into be an LS show more than anything else, isn't it? which is cool, man. I don't mind. I love LS stuff. Um, but thank you again, Rift. I appreciate it, brother. Jeffrey's saying, what up, B? How's it going? I need the spring. I'm jonesing for racing season. No kidding, right? Yeah, we're just getting into the fun part down here. We're saying I come in right in time. We're talking cold air intakes. Yep. Saying, I already know how you feel about what I got. Yeah, I know, but it sounds good. Let's see. Dr. Diff's asking, did I make it there last night? Oh, no. I got here this morning. I got up here this morning. So ended up getting back to the house, got some things done at the house, and got started on some work things, and then immediately conked out, fell asleep on the couch with the dogs. So, yeah, I didn't quite make it up last night. Had wanted to, just or thought about it, but decided against it. So Fox saying, have had my LS3 vet for 3+ years, so I've gotten used to it. What would you recommend I could do on a $2,000 budget to wake it up and make it interesting again? I'd say cam and here's LSX right here, brother. Jimmy's checking in saying cam and long tube symphonics, and Phonics saying cooks alone are $2,000. Man, look, you can go with a cheaper set of headers with the LS stuff. Let me tell you something. It's not, so the fitment issues, here's something to consider. And I hate to say this out loud, but it's just the truth. And I'm never going to shy away from the truth. A lot of the Chinese knockoff stuff for the LS are incredibly good knockoffs. So just keep that in the back of your mind. The fitment issues with the LS platforms, excluding the C7 Corvette. I've seen some train wrecks with the C7, but with the C6, I don't know of that many issues with fitment with some of the aftermarket stuff. Now, granted, nobody likes to hear about, the cost of some of this stuff, $2,000, $3,000, whatever the case is. But like I say, man, the knockoff stuff's pretty good. The only downside, you just don't know how long they're going to last. Flanges can warp, stuff can crack, things like that. Metallurgy, the metal quality is probably not going to be awesome. But that being said, stuff's really not all that bad. So you can move forward with that if you'd like. But, you can do it in stages too. I mean, you throw a cam in there. It's going to pick up with stock manifolds. That's the other nice thing about it is LS just don't care. So you could do it in stages, or just save up, bump your budget up. And I mean, hell, there's no sin in saving, man. I've eaten ramen noodles and, packaged tuna fish for a few months in a row just to afford one part. So you can definitely do it. But here's the thing. I mean, I would always advise to get the best part you can for the money, just because it's easier to cry once than twice. And typically the little bit more money that you're spending, you're not buying horsepower or torque at that point. You're buying quality. You're buying durability, long-term durability, either in terms of actual fitness, or just the actual, long-term, proper, the good metallurgy or metal quality, whatever. Sorry. Many meetings all day, brain not function good. LSX saying, get Texas speed. You don't need cooks. That's exactly right. It's an LS, man. Look, again, even the quote unquote cheap stuff for LS works. It's proven to work. And not only that, but it's inexpensive. Just get out there and get it, man. Don't worry about it. You'll be in good shape. Trust me. Rip's asking, how much does a 180 thermostat in a Hellcat really help? With a tune, that is. It'll help a little bit. It'll bring the temps down at cruise. You're obviously going to need a tune to adjust those fans, make them work properly. But yeah, for the most part, you're good. It'll cruise at 185, and in traffic it might get to 192, 195 before the fans kick on and start cooling her off. I'd say it's the first mod you need to do to the car, though. Dr. Joe saying, Thomas T.J. White, who ran it? His was 1101. Possibly, I want to say maybe it was a quad cab. Anyway, I'm not going to be happy until your truck's running 10.6, 10.7. So we got to get a 10.8 out of it first. So I don't care if he ran an 11, it's not a 10, and your truck's going 10s, and that's just how it is. That cam was put together for your truck to go 10s, and it's going to go 10s. LSX Jimmy saying my Texas Speed 178s were like 450 and have zero fitment issues. There you go. And it's Texas Speed, so you know it's going to be good stuff. Just do it. Go for it. So if I'm saying Speed Engineers was the cheaper option I was checking out, and the cheaper headers have this tingy valve train sound. A lot of them do that. It's not a. It's you'll hear it go tin tin tin. It's tinny is I think what you're trying to say. Most long tubes do, and I'll take that a step farther. The Hellcats and the 392 cars have a very similar sound, especially if you remove the cats. And it sounds almost like an exhaust leak, but it's not. It's just that tinny sound. Let's see. Riff saying, I will say the Chinese knockoff stuff is getting better nowadays. It's getting better just because their mold, what they're molding it after is fits. They make it like that and they ship it. So works out pretty good. Riff saying, for instance, the Chinese turbos on eBay are a lot better than they used to be. Yeah, they are. Let's see. Dr. Diff saying he got into TX2K. Nice. In their heavyweight class. Very cool. LSX saying the heavyweights in 2K are running 8s. Yeah. I think he's doing it more because, just to get a truck in there doing something, just get a little bit of publicity. But yeah, the heavyweights are running 8s. Right, Z? Alex and the Epic Mike saying, I'm buying my first Charger. It's a 2013 Dodge Charger Daytona road and track. Any advice? Any advice? Yeah, for what? I mean, yeah, change the oil, change all the fluids the day that you pick it up. Only run 89 or better fuel through it. I think you'll be in pretty good shape. Depending on mileage, take a look at the belt. Let's see. Doctor saying, also, I was totally exhausted when I got home, so walked in, unloaded in the morning. Although there's no better fun, it's still work when you have 3 vehicles. That's very true, brother. Rip is saying, I heard with a smaller pulley on a Hellcat, an intake actually starts to help. Don't know if that's true or not. Okay, there's a point where it does, okay? Let me tell you, so far as I can tell where that point is, it's somewhere north of about 800 horsepower to the rear wheels. That's where I've seen an intake make a slightly amount, like when I say slight, we're talking like 15 horsepower at the peak on a dyno. Here's the problem. I haven't seen it make a difference in ET or mile an hour at the drag strip, car for car, pulleyed or stock boost. So, I mean, there's that. And it's hard to say really too, because sometimes there's more changes that are made here and there, whatever. I will say this. If we're talking about cold airs on a Hellcat, I say go for it. Don't worry about performance gains or losses. It's been proven over and over again. In fact, there was at one point, Google it, but there were some guys that were really pissed off at JLT about some claims that they were making on their cold air. This one gentleman did some in-depth testing, man. And I mean, this dude went like deep cover style with his with his analysis of that particular inlet system, and found out the thing didn't make any more power. Actually, I think it might have lost a little bit of power on the dyno. It's on a stock boost car, didn't go any quicker or what have you. Anyway, do it for the noise. Do it for the theater of the thing. Do it for the fun. Just don't. When it comes to Hellcats, especially, or really anything, but we're talking about Hellcats in this case, aside from a tune, there's nothing you can really do to get anything else out of that car, hard part wise, unless you put more air through it, which in this case is boost. You just have to spin the supercharger harder or throw nitrous at it. But believe me when I tell you, and I've tried a lot of different minor little things, and I've tested ad nauseum this stuff, either on the dyno or at the drag strip. It's simply not even worth it. Oh, by the way, forgot to bring this up. So I brought the green filter with me to test at the drag strip. Didn't even bother with it. When I looked at the data, the data at roughly the same DA that I was running that green filter in was still better with the stock filter when I was data logging the car at the track. So I just said, screw it, man. I'm not even going to bother with this thing. I'd rather hang out with my friends and some of the new guys that I hadn't met at the drag strip. I'd rather do that than sit over there and try to mess with this air filter, number one. And number two, it ain't like they were paying me to test it. I paid for the filter, and like I said, on paper, it was, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. In data logs, the paper stock filter was faster on a timestamp roll from 60 to 130 than the green filter was. And that's giving the green filter every opportunity to beat the stock paper filter. Oh, that's another thing. The car went 1024s. That's with the passenger seat. Sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around here. Got sidetracked earlier on. Squirrel, right? The car went 1024s with the passenger seat with the stock air filter in the car. I just want to clarify that because, and it's got a 309 gear. Yeah. So, but here's the thing. Somebody had asked me if that's a record of some kind. I don't know. No, I doubt it. I hope not. I mean, you know, what would the record be? Is that the record for Hellcat with a 309 gear, with a transmission tune, with a little bit of fuel added to it, with a gallon and a half or 2 gallons of 100 octane on Bucky's 93 octane gasoline? That's the record. Okay. Yeah, so if you replicate that exact scenario, yeah, I'm the fastest on the planet with that exact scenario. Look, I'm not even going to get into records or this or that or what have you. Basically, with the way that I drive the car around for the most part on my drag pack, that's what it ran. And if anybody's gone quicker with similar modifications, good on you. If anybody goes considerably faster than that with the similar modifications, I don't care. You're going to have to do a damn sight better than me, though, to impress me. And I don't see anybody doing a damn sight better than me. So it's a stock Hellcat, man. What do you want me to tell you? I own every micro record with my Hellcat. I'm the micro record master over here. Let's see. He's LOLing. I think that's in reference to me going Z about him running 8s. Let's see. Rich saying, what do you think of how much they are charging for the new wide body Charger Hellcat Daytonas? I understand they're limited, but is it really worth it other than that? No. If you look at Racer X, he still has a stock intake on what he says is a 1,000 horsepower Hellcat. I can vouch for that. I'm actually the guy that delivered that car to him in Dallas. Drove it there, as a matter of fact. And, yeah, it put down 830. What the hell did that car put down? On the Mustang dyno, that thing put down 825, 815, 830, something like that. Really splitting hairs at that point. So, yeah, I mean, it's right at 1,000 horsepower. Car runs good. Ethan checking in, saying the best cam that I can suggest for the 5.7 guys is a 274 comp cam. I disagree with that. A buddy put one in his 2012 RT Challenger and put down 420 rear wheel horsepower. Let's see. I have driven a 274 cam in a 5.7. I didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. It was fun. Don't get me wrong. The car was actually, let me rephrase that. No, the car is not going to put down that kind of power with a 274. I mean, I helped to tune one. In fact, I did the trans tune in this car, or did a lot of the trans tune. I at least set the shift points, did a couple other things. You can hold the car from a dead stop, you can hold it at watt, won't light the tires up. Take your foot off the brake, car launches, comes into the cam, gets real efficient for about a second, and then the car shifts. But I will say this, it's like driving a smaller displacement engine with a centrifugal supercharger. It's actually a lot of fun to drive. It wouldn't be the first cam that I would recommend. I would want to go with something with a significantly more aggressive load profile. And I would go with something with significantly less lobe separation angle and less duration. That cam, I'll tell you where that cam does really well is in supercharged applications for strokers, but it would not be my first choice for a 5.7. LSX Jimmy saying, spin the supercharger harder or throw nitrous at it. Why not both? It's always an option. Absolutely. Symphonic saying, but the real reason I haven't pulled the trigger on upgrades for the C6 is C6 Z06 and C7 Stingrays are falling into my affordable range at 35 grand. So might have to save money for one of those. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what, I wouldn't get a Stingray, man. If it's me, if C6 Z06 is on the table, that's the one you go with. Even I don't care what is better or not better about the Stingray. I don't know. Not really my cup of tea. If I were to get a C7, it'd have to be a Grand Sport. And LSX, if you get a C6Z, plan on spending $4 grand on a set of heads as soon as possible. Or get a set of ported LS3 heads, which is actually a little bit better play. Symphonic saying, I wouldn't buy the Z06 unless it had the head work already done. A lot of guys do say that. I don't know. It depends on the deal that you're getting. Rib saying he would go with the trick flows. You can go that way too. Arthur saying, Brother B, thank you for going live. Thank you for hanging out with me, man. Luke saying, I've been thinking about buying a Ford F350 with the 6.4 Power Stroke. If I ever do buy one, I'm tearing out the emissions and running straight pipes. Go for it. LXX is saying, any aftermarket casting or at least spend $2,500 or so, have the stock heads fixed. Those LS7s or some valve eaters. That is true, especially the earlier ones. I don't know what the deal was with that. But man, they would absolutely tear a set of heads up. The Wolf's checking in saying, I thought the green filter felt slower on my stock Cat. I didn't data log, trapped 125 with it, 2018 Charger. Yeah, man. I mean, when I did the data log on it, it didn't ever do anything that would have made me think that it would have been any significantly better at anything, for one. And number two, when I did the timestamp, it was slower. So, like I said, I didn't even bother. I think it's still sitting behind my seat, as a matter of fact. Rip saying, by the way, Hemi Fever would not give my money back for the tunes that I paid for, so I'm still going to go with him. Hopefully, since it's still basically a stock Hellcat, he can't mess it up too much. Yeah, don't say that. It's actually something you can easily do. Yeah, I don't know, man. He's saying, I am going to get a tune from somebody else also and try both. Yeah, I mean, you can do that, I guess. I don't know. That's up to you, man. Go with whoever you feel comfortable with. That's the main thing. If you feel comfortable with him, then stick with him. I would just, if you ever get a funky feeling about somebody for whatever reason, that's when you need to split, because unless they're saying that they're going to paper up if that thing grenades, I don't know. Ethan's saying that RT with a 274 ran neck and neck with 392s and bolt-on 5.0s. Yeah, maybe it did. I'm not, certainly not from a dig, I'll tell you that. Maybe from a roll, like from a higher roll, like a 60 roll, where you can actually leg it out. Like I said, I didn't say it wasn't fast, but if it's running neck and neck with a 392, from what I've seen, I don't know. I've driven them, and I can tell you how they feel like to drive, and it's nowhere near a 392. Rip saying, is it safe to get race fuel tune and a regular tune fuel from my car and go back and forth? Here's the thing, man. I don't believe in race gas tunes per se for the Hellcats. There is no such thing as a quote-unquote race gas tune. You're talking about adding what, an extra degree of timing? It doesn't make any sense. So what are you going to do? Bring the knock sensor sensitivity up, I guess, ramp up the voltage a little bit more. Look, here's the thing. If it's me, don't go real aggressive with timing. If you want a race gas tune, take your 93 octane tune and add about 2 gallons of 100 octane. Get you a pail of Sunoco GT260. Dump about a gallon or so into your tank before you go racing if you want it to be safe. Tuning on the ragged edge with any of the unleaded race fuels, you're just not going to really get that much out of it. Again, with these cars, maybe a couple of degrees of time. The main thing is just so you don't run into any minor false knock. I mean, I guess it's not false if it's actually triggering the knock sensors, but even at that, again, just to be on the safe side, a couple of gallons and you'll be good. Put you like this, I'm not running any extra timing in my car. Runs 1020s, has run 1050s during the summertime. A little bit of race gas will take you a long way. So just something to consider. Let's see. Say he's thinking about going with Forza. Let's see. Ethan's saying there are videos on YouTube. Dude, then whatever. I don't care. Talking about your 5.7 up against 5.0s and 392s. Dude, great. I'm not saying it won't be quicker. I'm saying that from what I've seen, something's wrong with the 392 or the 5.0 that it's running. Let's see. Jerry Ton say, do you know if the 1320 warranty covers it on track like a demon? I believe it does not cover it on track. Wolf saying, enjoying the Corvette talk. Also have a 2008 manual LS3 C6, but I never modify it because without big boost, they're not competitive. Well, competitive in what way? I mean, that's kind of a harsh indictment. The cars are awesome. They're extremely competitive. You don't have to boost them for them to be competitive or fun or anything like that. If you're talking about roll racing and you're going out there trying to just absolutely throw the hammer at somebody, then, maybe not. But, there's more than one way for something to be competitive, man. I'd hate to say it's not competitive when they run fine. He's saying LS cars, on the other hand, monsters with cam headers and intake. LS3 can be a monster with heads, cam, and intake. Believe me when I tell you, there's nothing minor about some of those things making 560, 570 horsepower at the flywheel. LS7's got more displacement, so you're going to get a little bit farther with that. But, I mean, dude, don't sell an LS3 short, man. You can bring the heat with an LS3 for sure. Rip's saying, I wanted to go with Boostane if I did get a race fuel tune, but I'm a bit worried about the whole everything turning yellow inside. Oh, talking about mainly about the spark plugs. Have no idea if that hurts the car or what. No, it doesn't really hurt the car. I'm not a big fan of Boostane, and I'm not a big fan of Torco and all of that for this one reason. First of all, the car is really not designed to run on that. It's not a true fuel. It's an additive. And I get what you're going to say. Well, race gas has an add pack. Yeah, sort of. But race gas is a metered, monitored, and spec'd fuel. Whereas something like Torco, Boostane, or something like that, you're really kind of, you're hoping that you're mixing it properly. Stick with what works. And again, don't try to get too far away from the recipe when it comes to those cars. Just trying to look out for you. Let's see. LSX is saying, not competitive. A cam only LS3 car can edge out a stock cat on the street. That's 100% accurate. As a matter of fact, I used to go sniping after Hellcats with my C5 Z06 with just a cam. Let's see, it was a cam, a Veraram intake, extremely minor work done to the heads, long tube headers, and that was it. From a roll, it would actually tiptoe away from a stock Hellcat. Let's see. Ethan saying, sorry, not trying to annoy you. Just thought that I've heard all the same things in regards to the 274 and 5.7, but his run's good. By the way, I have a 5.0. No, it's not annoying. It's just one of these things where, in the particular case that I'm talking about, and in several other cases with those cars, if we're talking about a roll race or something like that, yeah, maybe. But I mean, dude, from an overall driving impression, it kind of left you a bit wanting. I mean, if there might be something else going on with that car, I don't know. Maybe you don't know about it either, because the one that I drove, actually the one that I drove and the other one that I had on the dyno, they both made the same power. So not that it made shitty power, it just didn't make that kind of power, but who knows. LSX Jimmy saying, what compromises? Mine drives like stock with a cam. I don't know, it depends on the cam, bro. You've got about the right size cam in that car. Mine did not drive like stock. I had a Mayhem 2 cam in that one, and it did not drive like stock. It drove like shit. But at about 4,000 RPM, things became extremely awesome. Rip saying, silly question, but how important and when do you need a breather on your motor in a Hellcat? Somewhere around, I would say, 16 to 18 pounds of boost. Let's see. Dr. Dip is saying, my 5.7 will cover a 392 or a 5.0 on the street at least. Was hoping to get to run the Hellcat that was running 11s. That was a manual Hellcat. That would have been a good race, actually. Rip's saying, what is a good RPM to shift at once I get my car tuned for the quarter mile? Start your tuning experiment somewhere around 6,200. Start it around 6,200. I'm going to tell you this. You spin it any faster than... just don't try to get stupid with shift points on a Hellcat. I've been giving away a lot of free advice on Hellcats, and if any of it ever sticks, it's going to be try not to over rev the thing. The valve train's stable to about 6,500 RPM, but don't try to spin it any faster than that ever for any reason. Obviously, your limiters are going to be higher than that for predictive shift purposes, but I mean, an accident here and there, you can blip it over, 68, 6,900 RPM on an accident. I just wouldn't load it at RPMs higher than that. Let's see. Oh, the Wolf's at LSX. Oh, Riff saying A8 auto. Yeah. Saying he prefers the boosted applications. That's fine. I mean, if you're going to be throwing a ton of, if look, and here's the other thing. If you're living in a world where 1,000 horsepower is like the cost of doing business, then you need to be making 1,000 horsepower minimum. And, frankly, the thing is that a lot of guys go with the bigger is better mentality with camshafts, thinking that if you're just, because LSs just love to eat up camshafts, you're getting more with more cam. Nothing could be farther from the truth. And Jimmy picked the right cam for his car. It's small by LS standards, at least in a couple of metrics. But listen, man, that's the size that works properly for those cars. What a lot of guys have done is they've just gone way too big. You're talking like 238 on the intake side, 248 on the exhaust side. I mean, that might work for an LS7, but it's not going to work for an LS3, certainly not an LS2 or anything smaller than that. So that's where a lot of the drivability issues come into play. Now, that being said, if you're going to spray the car, then you need the extra duration. So yeah, I mean, that's perfectly fine. Your killing the RPM ability of the intake manifold once you hit the spray. So you need the extra flow that larger camshaft's going to offer. And you're not really worried about off wide open throttle drivability at that point, which is fine. But, a good, fun, compromise cam will treat you right. And you'll make plenty of power. And again, it's hard to not make over 525 horsepower with an LS nowadays. The cam profiles are just that good. And most manufacturers started to creep away from some of the camshafts that were just causing a lot of guys a lot of issues. And again, a lot of it has to do with the lobe profile. It really has nothing to do with the duration or even the lobe separation angle. Most of it is in the lobe profile itself. Let's see. Rip saying, believe me, all the information you give on a Hellcat, I take to heart. Other than getting the intake, obviously, like an idiot. No, you're not an idiot, man. It's fun, man. Like I said, don't ever think that doing something because it makes the car more fun or enjoyable is a bad thing. Like I say, I might put one on my car just because I love the theater of it. Rip saying, so what is the difference in it's one I am going to get on my Hellcat compared to you, since I have the same setup and do not have the same gearing. I have the stock 265. Oh, if you're asking about ET, man, it'll run a decent time. Don't worry about that. Just get the drag pack on it, get out there and have fun. You'll be running mid-10s in decent air, so don't sweat it. My car is a little bit different. My car does run technically a little bit better than, some of the regular ones, but regular Hellcats, but it's, part of that's me tweaking with it. So get out there, run some, 1050s and have a ball with the car. You'll have a blast with it. Let's see. The Wolf saying, you need to trap 140 here to even run mid-pack. LSX is jumping in the middle of that. Let's see. Let's see. We got a Whipple Cat if I need a 140 car. Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is that to even run mid-pack, you got to have a 140 car, which is funny because back when I was doing a bunch of stupid stuff, I mean, we were running, the 100 to 200 runs, and all of our cars, I guess, by that standard would be, in the quarter. I mean, none of these cars are really ever running the quarter. They were all set up for roll racing. So that's a little bit different way of doing things back in the day. Rip's saying, would it be okay to put a 50 shot of nitrous on my Hellcat just to throw a little bit of extra mile an hour at the end of the track? Man, it's not going to do you any good. I mean, a 50 shot isn't going to do you any. You're not even going to know a 50 shot hits at the top of the track. If you're going to do anything, I would go 100 shot, but I would tune around the 100 shot. And I don't even like doing nitrous on Hellcats unless you're pulling the absolute hell out of them. You can potentially run into a distribution issue with them at that point. There's other ways to go about it, but if it's extremely pulley, then yeah, I'd probably go with it. You can probably get away with a 100 shot and be all right. 50 shot, though, never going to notice it, but you're going to have to tune around it. The Wolf saying, I've owned the LS3 car for 12 years. Sometimes I consider doing something to it. Hey, Argossi's checking in and saying, hey, what's up, bro? What's up, man? Rip33 saying, I'm really looking into getting some Demon Springs for my Hellcat, but I'm starting to think that with the stock power and a tune, it really won't help. Don't even bother with it. Not right now, not yet. You start getting that thing down into like the 1020, 1030 range, you might start to consider them, but just know that the car is going to ride differently. It's going to ride like a big luxury car. So not a bad thing, but let's see. Dr. Div saying, mine drives around on the street like a truck with a cam in it. Not stock by any means, but it could be daily driven. Just a little uncomfortable, but at 3,000 RPM, it's a riot. You better believe it. No, that's right. Ethan's saying, so I'm having traction issues on my 5.0. If I hit it from second on a 40 or 50, the back tires will fishtail so bad that I'll have to let off. The tires have tons of tread and are 295 Nittos. Suspension? No. Put a drag radial on it. Paul's asking, can you tell us why the IAT is 30 degrees higher on the ambient than ambient on the Hellcats is because it's not measuring it as an inlet air temperature. It's actually measuring it as manifold air temperature. It's one of the sensors that can kind of throw you off on those cars. So it's actually manifold temperature, not technically inlet air temperature. Wolf saying some of these GT500s need to blow up so I don't buy one. Well, if they keep falling off of trucks, that might be the problem. Might be the case. Or having issues with delivery. That's sad to hear. Rich is saying, so with the Demon Springs, it does not handle as well? No, it doesn't. Scott Speed saying, what up, B. Mason? Got the thumbs up. I like it. Multiple Mopar saying, sorry I missed your call earlier. I've been going between Ford dealership and work all day. Yeah, we need to talk, bro. I need to talk to you about that Ford dealership traveling you've been doing, sports fan. I'll be in meetings all day. I'll give you a shout when I'm heading back to H-Town. Paul's saying, thank you. Steven's saying, Ethan, you need rear lower control arms. Those with radials, great setup. That's true, too. But I would go with tires first. Wait, setup, he should be in good shape. White Knuckles saying, the GT500s are starting to show clutch overheat issues. That's enough to throw me off. I've only seen one or heard of one where it was doing that. I'm not surprised by that, but I don't know. We'll see how that progresses. Rich saying, I've been driving with drag radials for the last year and forgot what it's like to drive with street tires. Can you all remind me what the difference is? Of course, I have my drag pack, but I'm not thinking about going back to street tires for daily use. I tell you what, it's not really much different. You'll feel a little bit safer, really. Just drive them around at like 28 to 30 psi. Multiple Mopar saying, if it can be broken, I'll do it on the GT500. I know that's right. Yeah, so like I said, we got to talk, bro. Looking forward to your progress with the GT500, by the way. Dr. Diff is saying that I called that. Yep. LSX is saying 1314 GT500 is better than the 2020. 5.8 cars were monsters. Yeah, I would say so. Like those cars a lot. White Knuckles asking the multiple Mopars if he's getting one. I will let him answer that. Dr. Dip, the DCT GT500. Yeah, no, I did call that a while back. That was the first thing that I called out, as a matter of fact, on that car. The Wolf saying, be honest, will Tri-5R be sufficient on a stock wheel? I did 11.5 at 125 on the stock Pirellis. They're awful. Yeah, Tri-5R will be fine. Don't worry about that. Yeah, I love Tri-5Rs. R. Grassi saying, my new Hellcat already has his JLT cold air intake system and oil separator. Cool. Nitto Tri-5s and drag radials in the rear. The Z26 pads are here. Nice. Performance diff braces are coming for both cars. Very cool. You are off to a good start. And so far, you basically have the same combination I do, save for a gear. Talking about 11.5 would be a good place to start. Should do a little bit better than that. Argossi saying, my Hellcat and my TA, how am I doing so far? Like I say, doing great. Working out fine. Dr. Duke saying exactly. Mopar saying, yes, we are finalizing one the next couple of days. We may have it at Legion of Demons Houston this weekend. Good, because I may be crewing for Ray in his new Demon. Riv saying, Argrossi, you and I have the same kind of car, so I will hit you up. I'll let you know if I'm able to work that event. White Knuckles saying, you're going to let the demons beat up on it? Nah. Let's see. Symphonic saying, maybe I should wait a few more years and save up some more money and get my C601 dream car. Probably a good idea. Rift is asking, so how much would I have to pay you to tune my car? Yeah. Not doing any outside tuning. I will play with my own stuff, but if you want to have yours done, have to talk to somebody that does it for a living. But with my tuning, it would go 1020s. Our guy's saying, I'm going for my B. Mason graduation degree. I like it. The Wolf saying, C6ZR1 is a showstopper for sure. Yeah, it is. Rich saying, I'm willing to pay good. And Mopar saying, I don't feel bad about Mopar Ford being greater than Ford. Symphonic saying, yeah, that C601 is still the prettiest Corvette ever made, in my opinion. I agree. Those are good looking cars, man. Well, guys, check it out. It's coming up on about an hour and 15 minutes. I've got to wrap this up. I got to wake up early in the morning. You guys have an unbelievable week coming up. Cannot wait to see you guys on the next one. And that is a wrap for this. Again, great week. Don't go out there and do anything dumb. That's my job. That's a wrap. Adios.